This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
It's the Paradise Podcast.
I am your host, Ryan Michelle Bethay, with my husband, Sterling.
What's up?
Join us here on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus, where we'll discuss each episode with the cast and crew of Paradise. I'll be getting all the secrets from Dan Fogelman, James Marsden, Shailene Woodley, Julianne Nicholson, and Sterling Kelby-Brown. Woo! Paradise, the official podcast, is now streaming.
And stream Paradise on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus.
It's Jay Scott. Welcome to The Hook Rocks, the ultimate rock community podcast. Hope everybody's doing well out there, staying safe, staying healthy. As I do at the beginning of every show, I wish everybody the best. Hope everybody's getting through what they need to get through, and hopefully sooner rather than later, we will get back to the normal that we're all used to and we all remember. And hopefully we can put the end of 2020 at the end of this year, and hopefully it doesn't bleed too much into 2021. But we're getting closer and closer. We're about 3 months away, and hopefully live music is upon us, more new music is upon us, and we can offer the escape to you that we've been doing here for the past several months in talking about rock music, interviewing great guests, interviewing new bands, and shining a spotlight on them. And we would like to welcome in guitar legend, Joel Hoekstra. What's going on, Joel? How are you?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, we spoke briefly before the interview. You're from the burbs here in Chicago, on the southwest burbs of Orland Park. I'm from the northwest burb of Des Plaines. Does that mean you're a Sox fan?
No, I grew up a Cubs fan because they were on WGN all the time. So my dad was disappointed, but I'm a Cubs guy.
Well, there you go. Both start the playoffs. I know the Sox start today. The Cubs start tomorrow. It's kind of a funky season that they had to do here because of the pandemic, but it's nice to have postseason baseball upon us.
Yeah, so what are they doing? A best of 3 in the first round only? That's crazy.
Yeah. 16,
is that what that is?
Yeah, 16 teams total, 8 in each league.
Yeah.
And they're doing a
I
best
saw that,
of 3.
but then it's each round, so it's a best of 3 and then what, a best of 5 and then a best of 7, best of 7?
Yeah, I think that's how it goes.
Okay. Boy, that first round is like anybody can lose 2 or 3, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it really doesn't give a chance for a team. Let's say a team's coming in that was won the division like the Cubs, but really hasn't been playing well over the last couple of weeks. They could still be in that funk when they start tomorrow and be done in 2 games, or 3 games rather.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But after this series, then I think the American League plays in Los Angeles and San Diego, kind of like a bubble to what the NBA was doing. And then the National League plays in Houston and Arlington. So that's going to happen too as well. We'll see what happens. Like you said, anything can happen in a 3-game set. I think all 3 games are at Wrigley, and I think the Sox are playing all 3 games. Who are the Sox playing, by the way? I'm trying to remember.
I don't know offhand.
Yeah.
I know the Cubs are playing the Marlins. That's all I know.
So Well, hey, we always start the first episode every time we have a new guest with us on the first time on the show with the same question, and that's the essence of the podcast, which is just like every rock song has a hook that sucks you in, every rock fan has a moment, whether it's a song, an album, a band, or performance that hooked them on rock and roll. What was it for you?
It'd definitely be AC/DC, Back in Black in particular, and AC/DC just being on MTV when it first was on the air, if you remember that. And technically, like, I would say right before, like, the first rock song I ever liked was, I remember hearing, like, my neighbor playing it, I think on, one of those, guys, like, washing his car or something and had it cranked on his car stereo, but Billy Squier, The Stroke. And I remember going like, hey, that's pretty cool. Like, first time kind of digging, like, a rock song. And then, I'd say the one that really got me in was AC/DC. Back in Black was like, an obsession when I was a kid. I wore that out and was totally into them.
And where did it go from there? Who made you want to pick up a guitar and play a guitar?
Angus Young again, right there. I mean, that all kind of was like right in one fell swoop, and very much into hard rock, heavy metal in the early going. Just AC/DC, Black Sabbath, Ozzy, Iron Maiden, Scorpions, and then from there, just kind of branching off more into, I guess, more softer melodic bands as I got a little bit older, like Boston and Foreigner and Journey and that kind of thing. And from there, it just kept spreading. All the guitar albums came in; those were big influences. All the Satriani, Vai, and Yngwie, and you got to throw in. Basically, you're growing up in Chicago, this because there were such great radio stations back then. A lot of the classic rock stuff came from all the CKG and the Loop and WMET, and just like the stations they'd leave on all day. But definitely love like classic rock, older 70s stuff too. All those, Pink Floyd and I guess, Zeppelin and all that stuff was a big influence growing up as well. And so just a big melting pot of all that stuff.
I remember WMET growing up as a kid. I remember 95.5, and it was such a cool radio station because it would play like Judas Priest and Van Halen, and then it would play the Greg Kihn band, and just a really cool station. Like, you could get everything in rock under one station, 95.5, and then they changed over to like the new wave jazz station.
Yeah, it was like heartbreaking, right?
Yeah, remember when they said, I remember when they said like the noise is gone, and then they play like this new wave jazz, and I'd be like, what do you mean the noise is gone? I love that noise, and then and then there was WVVX, of course, which was 103.1, which came on at like after 7:00 at night, and it was, I think one of the DJs, Scott Loftus, was from WMET, but they came on, and that was like a breath of fresh air because they were strictly rock, and they would play the local bands like Holland, and I don't know if you remember Hammer On, and all those kind of local bands in Chicago, when you were growing up, and that was a great station. That lasted for a long time too, like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I remember it.
So I always like to talk about the evolution of the artist. You mentioned AC/DC. You mentioned all these artists that grabbed you into music, who wanted you to play guitar, that were influential for you on guitar. What was next? Was there a moment where you said, hey, I want to be in a band, I want to play on stage? What was that moment like?
First band, at first I would just get together with like friends who were drummers or something and jam with them, and we would get a little set together and stuff. But then my first full band, I was a junior in high school, but I was a year ahead in school, so I think I was still only 15 when I got that together. But that was my first band playing gigs, and which were just like all ages shows, basically. We may have like played in a bar or two along the way where they'd sneak me in the back door because I was so young, and I looked young too. I was short back then. But that's basically the gist of it. Just that was my first band, 15 through 17 years old, let's say.
I remember getting into places young too. I was always tall for my age, so I remember getting into like the Thirsty Whale to see, like Enough's Enough, or the Chances Are, which I think was in Palatine, which was another place that, I would just walk in because I was tall. And back then they didn't really card you that hard. But I remember experiencing all that and, going to Jeans and Jude's next door to the Thirsty Whale afterwards and experiencing the parking lot with all this loud music going on. It was great. It's a great thing when you're growing up as a kid.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a great motivator as a musician too. Great scene back then. There were so many great guitar players in that era of rock, and everybody was kind of competing for how many hours a day they were practicing, and that's cool stuff.
Well, I got a firsthand experience with my son. He's 15, and the music bug has bitten him, and he's practicing on his guitar 5-6 hours a day. As soon as he's done with his school, now he's doing the e-learning because of the pandemic. It's just like from 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon to 10 o'clock at night. Takes a break for dinner, but he's just playing, everything.
Yeah. Yeah, the remote learning would have been a dream come true for me when I was a kid. I couldn't stand that, how much energy and how long the day was at school that chewed into it, because all I wanted to be doing was playing guitar. I used to beg my mom, let me drop out, because I was like, I'm never going to be able to practice 8 hours a day, and then I'm going to school, and I just want to do this. And so, yeah, it was, obviously great that I hung in there and finished in high school, but and a couple years of college even at that. But I just desperately wanted to play my guitar. That was all I wanted to do.
He read this book called Van Halen Rising, written by Greg Renoff, and it's about the early days of Van Halen prior to Van Halen 1. And, he comes in the kitchen, he's like, Dad, did you know that Eddie Van Halen would bring his guitar to school and play while he was in class? And I'm like, things were a lot different in the 70s. I'm like, you can't do that now. You can't just bring a guitar into a class and just be thumbing scales, while the teacher's trying to teach chemistry.
I had a great setup in I think it was my senior year in high school. I was in what was called Music Theory 2, like second semester music theory, essentially. And I think because only 4 or 5 of us signed up for the class. They didn't want to cancel the class, but they let us basically just do some assignments in these practice rooms, but then we could also practice in there too. They had some guitars in the school, so I used to just I'd grab a guitar and just go practice for an hour during the school day. That was great.
When you talk about, back when you were younger and where you are at now, I always admire those that are doing or went on the path in their life and the journey in their life to do what they love. And, what you do, obviously being a musician never feels like work, but to have that passion at such a young age and then to turn it into a career, a successful career like you have, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely lucky not to have to labor over it too much. I mean, there was lots of times where I probably should have had common sense and said this isn't working out for me, but I guess to be naive and I guess they say ignorance is bliss, right? I mean, I managed to make it through just by simply not caring that things weren't all that great. But I mean, I would debate whether or not sometimes music feels like work. It definitely feels like work. There's so many times you go to play your guitar when you make a living at it where you're not like, hey, I can't wait to pick up my guitar today. So just like anything else, and especially when you get into traveling extensively, that is like, can be a grind. There's tons of times, the amount of times I've had to wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning or have absolutely zero sleep and get on a plane and sleep on a plane going somewhere. There's tons of times where it's like, oh man, I'm grinding to do this. But, again, we're lucky to have the opportunity and you get to see the world, and it's a great way to make a living for sure if you can make it happen.
You've been busy. You are always working. You're doing a lot of different stuff. During the pandemic, a lot of people have either taking this time to kind of just relax and catch up on things. Other people are still being inspired, still writing music. You fall under that category because I look on your website and you've got the EcoBats project going on. You've got your project with the 13, the Joel Hoekstra 13. Is that really important for you to stay active and to keep creating?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much my philosophy, to try and be productive every day, to try and do something where I'm moving forward with it. I have a hard time completely taking a day off lately because I've been hitting it so hard on certain days of the week. There's days where I'll not play my guitar, but I'll usually still try and get some other things done, like business-wise, and still be moving forward. I think it's you have to be productive every day to build a career. It's just all these baby steps, man. It's a long path to be able to do this. So I could never be comfortable with being an actual professional musician and taking this amount of time to not move forward. I think most people are doing some stuff. I'm probably on the extreme end of being busier. I mean, I'm teaching 32 students a week via Skype right now, some master classes, and doing sessions fairly regularly for people. And on top of that, obviously, you said Joel Hoekstra's 13. I finished up that album and the EcoBats project, and I've been putting out quarantine jam videos to just kind of keep people entertained and keep myself entertained. So yeah, I've been definitely really, really busy. It just is a completely different landscape. I've gone from traveling the world to traveling to my dining room table every day.
Well, I have to say the EcoBats song, Save Me From Loving You, is a completely different style than what people are used to with your, music. I mean, you're in Whitesnake, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, obviously, Night Ranger. And I thought the Save Me From Loving You video, the song is great. It's got a very Beatle-esque influence to it. Tony Harnell sounds awesome on it. How did that project come about?
Yeah, that was really Tony Harnell and Matt Starr talking about doing a project, and then talking about hey, who should we get on guitar, and coming up with me. And then they called me, and we all kind of agreed on doing something that wasn't just like hard rock. Everybody's got enough hard rock things happening, and I kind of felt like let's do something that showcases a different side. And we kind of had discussed going about more of a Queen kind of influence thing than anything. But we gave Tony 8 ideas. We had brought in James Lomenzo as well. I failed to mention that. But James and I gave Tony 8 ideas, and that's the first song he completed. And kind of really made for the perfect song to put out at this time, just because it's, everybody's kind of down, and it's such an upbeat, happy song, although kind of ironic. The lyrics, of course, are kind of dark over such a pretty or happy song. Not pretty, but anyway, it was a great opportunity to put out something that kind of lifted people up, made them happy, and it's a real fun video too. So yeah, great. Obviously, I grew up playing all kinds of things, not just hard rock. So for me to get an opportunity to just, show what I can do on guitar a bit, and even what I can write because that was a song that I wrote with Tony. So that's a great opportunity.
There's been other things too as well. I mean, you mentioned the 13 project. You've done some of those online jams like the Starship cover Jane, which I thought was phenomenal. Is it, when you think about what's going on in the world and people using different things to, use as an escape, like music, sports, books, whatever it is, you have that ability to kind of tune out the outside world. And is that important for your creative process, being able to do that and not get really sucked into the negativity that's really out there right now?
Yeah, I think that definitely ties into the just trying to keep moving forward and be productive, right? If you can find motivating factors to just kind of keep you doing that, it keeps the blinders on a little bit. So, I mean, there's definitely right now, I think with all the, I just got done on Netflix watching the Social Dilemma, and what they called, The Great Hack last night. You just see how we're all kind of being influenced by social media, and it's a real eye opener. And I guess it just reinforces with me all the more, like, hey, let's just focus on what's happening right now. What can I control? And I can definitely still control, like, trying to be a good person and trying to be productive. And so that's just what I'm focusing on more than all the getting caught up in all the drama. And so there you go. I mean, I guess if everybody can look after themselves and be the best person they can be, I guess we'll be all right through all this.
Right. I mean, it's important that you keep a level head, and people do keep a level head out, with all that's going on, whether it's the pandemic, whether it's the, protests and marches that are happening. We have the election that's coming up in a couple months, and there's always drama around that. And, it can also affect your creativity, because if you allow yourself to kind of, feel these impulses of negativity and react right away, you can find yourself going down a path when you're creating music or creating anything, really being influenced by, what's going on outside. And sometimes people allow that. Sometimes people want that. But there's also the case like, hey, like, I don't want my music to be as a reflection of this, because that's not really who I am.
Yeah, I mean, I've never struggled to be able to generate creativity. For me, it's all about, like, the purpose of the creativity. Like where is it headed? How am I going to channel it into something that's going to be helpful? So, I mean, I feel like it's often more about that for me, like finding the purpose and the reason. And so as long as I can keep doing that, and for me, that always comes down to just being able to, like, get through my life doing this and not end up having the window close on me where it's like, oh, I've got to go wait tables, I don't really have any other skill sets, man. I'd be so screwed if it all closed on me with music. And I've got little kids. I'm trying to raise them, and so for me to just stay motivated is it's all about just trying to be work hard every day and find the purpose with this stuff, right? Not necessarily to be creative, but I think that's really easy. I wouldn't have made it this far if I couldn't just write a song on the spot. I could pretty much, for me, it's like, well, what am I writing for, and what's the purpose for? And that's what it becomes more about.
My follow-up question to that is, staying busy with all these projects and doing what you do. You have worked with a lot of different artists, and a lot of those artists all have different personalities. How are you able to, navigate through one person being one way and another person being another way? Is it you just show up to do what you need to do, or how do you handle, I asked the similar question to Rudy Sarzo, who I had on several months ago. He's worked with a lot of people too. And I'm interested just to see what your point of view is on that. Like, how do you handle different personalities that you work with?
Yeah, I think you find most of the people that are doing well are usually the people that appreciate the opportunities. The people that tend to head down are the ones kind of complaining or griping about it all. So do your best to see all the positives in it. And I think you could drive yourself crazy with any gig if you focus on the negatives. The best thing to do is focus on the positives and talk about that, and whatever you're putting out will come back to you, right? So if you're being positive with people, they're going to be positive with you and all that stuff. So it's kind of common sense, but that's what it comes down to, and try not to be, like, disingenuous, obviously, with that. It's not like I'm going to just, like, lie to be positive. It's just actually, it's all there. You just actually have to focus and figure out what it is that you really is the best about dealing with each person and what they're great at, and then let them know that. And that's obviously the best way to roll.
Have you ever turned down a project or an opportunity just because you were concerned about, the interaction with who you're going to be dealing with?
Not really. I mean, I'll pretty much embrace working in any opportunity and give it give it a chance and see how things go. I wouldn't say I never necessarily shut doors right out of the gate, but I'm all for trying to work as hard as possible. I mean, I would work on a million different things to see what takes off or what works the best. It all just kind of comes down to how much time do you have, how much work can you put in. So there are things I do turn down because I'm actually busy. Like if I'm booked and I don't have any more energy left, there are things where I'm like, man, I'm sorry, I just don't have time, like, to be able to do it right now. But not until I hit that point. No, I would never sit around and not be doing anything and turn down stuff. I would just, I find that working generates work. So if you get out and you're active and you're doing your best in every situation, that's going to generate more opportunities, and those opportunities become better.
The project Joel Hoekstra 13, you released your initial album in 2017, and now you're following up with a newer album. What was that process like, putting this together? Was this all done before the pandemic, or was this put together while you were, under lockdown?
So the songs were written before any of this, and then I laid down my guitars during it at home, like at the beginning of it. So yeah, now it's mixed and basically turned in and getting ready to have that released at the top of 21. And I think we'll even hopefully hear a single or two come out before then. So yeah, I'm excited about it. I mean, it's all stuff that was written, so it's not like lyrically it's about the pandemic or anything like that. There's really nothing on there that's about it, which is probably a good thing. Who wants to write a song about sitting at home all day, right? Not necessarily me.
Yeah. I went to the kitchen, and then I, brought my lunch into the living room, and
right.
Like what could you possibly write about? I cut the lawn today, whatever. But
here's my living room again. From the hit song, here's the hit album, here's my living room again.
And the B-side is vacuuming twice a week. That's the song there. But how about the people that you had on the album? I know you had Jeff Scott Soto on the previous album, Vinny Appice you had on the album prior to this. What was it like working with same musicians or different musicians this time around?
Yeah, same lineup. Vinny Appice on drums, Tony Franklin on bass, Derek Sherinian on keys. The only difference this time is Russell Allen sang all the lead vocals. Last time, Russell Allen and Jeff Scott Soto split it down the middle. This time, Jeff just basically helped me out singing the backgrounds on it. I mean, he's got a lot of irons in the fire now with Sons of Apollo and his solo album. And so Russell Allen's a great singer, though. So happy to have him on there. And I think people will dig it. I mean, it's consistent. It's the same kind of vibe as the previous album. They're slightly more focused, I'd say, this time around in terms of its sound. But people can expect roughly the same kind of vibe.
Is this going to be released on Frontiers?
Yeah, I don't think we've made an official announcement on the signing, but yeah.
Now, when you work with Whitesnake, going from Trans-Siberian Orchestra, doing your own side projects, doing session work, then you have the band Whitesnake, who's near and dear to a lot of fans and loved by many. They just released a rocks album, rock songs, and there was a new song on there that you collaborated with. What's that process like?
So, David signs the deals for these, I think with Warner Brothers, with Rhino, and the compilation records, amazingly enough, I'm a part of them, which is fantastic. The first one, the rock album, so he signed a deal, I believe, for a trilogy. It's the rock and then love and then blues, like a red, white, and blues, I think, kind of type of thing. And thankfully, the first one had a song that I co-wrote with David for a new track on there. And then I had also cut, there was an album out years ago called Restless Heart that was sort of intended to be a David Coverdale solo album. and he had Adrian Vandenberg play on it. And the production style was a little bit more along the lines of Coverdale Page, where they're going for like a single guitar pass with multiple amps and things like that. But it wasn't like a Les Paul sounding album. And I think the label at the time forced David to put it out under the Whitesnake moniker. So, at least as I understand it. So he asked me, this was a while ago now, a year or two ago, to double Adrian's parts really tight with a Les Paul and maybe add some overdubs here and there. And he brought in Derek Sherinian to play some keys on it, and then remixed it. So some of those tracks are a part of each of the compilations, I believe. Not sure about the third one, but I know the Love album is coming out now, and I was thankful to get some of those Restless Heart tracks on there, and on the first one, the Rock album that you mentioned. So yeah, it's cool, and obviously great to still be in the loop with David on all that, and have some stuff coming out that can keep the fans engaged, and during this time is a great thing.
We talk a lot on this show about the state of rock and roll, and obviously everything had to be put on pause in 2020 for a lot of artists. And now we're starting to see at the end of the year, albums start to trickle out. A lot of stuff has been pushed back originally from the spring into the summer, now the summer in 2021. And all this stuff is coming out, and we still don't know what's going to be the touring situation, the live music situation. We still don't know how that's going to be, especially come springtime, summertime. Will things start to open up? We want to keep a positive attitude and believe that. I just had Save Our Stages on last week, a representative from that group, to talk about what's happening with legislation to try to get some of these clubs and these theaters to stay open. But when you think about the state of rock, even prior to the pandemic, rock and roll, of course, will never die. It will always be played. It will always have an audience. However, the relevancy of it is suffering. And when what I mean by that is, you look at the Grammy Awards. They don't even have the Rock Awards on television. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame tells you now what's considered rock and roll. And there's a lot of other things too. You look at the lack of music just being absorbed by young people, although I do think that's changing. What's your take on that? Like, what do you see, being on the front lines, being in music? What do you see in terms of the state of rock and roll and where the direction of rock music is going?
Yeah, I don't really worry about it much, man. I mean, the way I look at it is like, I live in New York City, where people are very fixated on what's hip and what's cool and what's in. And so I've already announced a long time ago, look, I'm not cool and I don't care. I'm just going to do what I do and do the best I can at it. And I love what I do. Like, I have fun with all my gigs. And so maybe I'm not playing guitar for, who knows, whatever chart-topping artist it is out there, but I actually could care less. I'd rather be doing what I'm doing. So I don't worry about it, man. I just do what I do and keep moving forward. Like I said, I think it's more about being productive than worrying about how relevant rock is. Now, I mean, if it completely collapses and I can't make a dime doing it, then I suppose it'll be of some concern. But I don't know, man. I don't necessarily see that happening.
Well, yeah, I don't either. I had an interesting conversation with the guitar player Blake Allard from a band called Joyous Wolf, which is this new band out of Long Beach, California. And he said something really interesting, that I can't determine and I can't control what happens around me or around our band. So if we just keep writing good music and playing good music, it will find its audience. And I think that's just a great perspective, especially for a new artist, new band, to have that, hey, we know that pop music and hip hop rule the day right now. And, but we love what we do. We love playing what we play. We're just going to keep making the best music possible. Is that kind of the same philosophy you have?
I think that's all you can do. That's pretty much how I made it through everything, I think, to get where I am today. So nothing's changed. It's not like I changed my mindset at all. That's pretty much where I've been the whole time. Just keep working and just keep doing all this and moving forward. That's all. I mean, it's kind of basic. I'm sure there's a lot of musicians in my mindset. I think that's more of a lot of fans worry about that stuff. But I think, and unless you're I guess an original member of a gigantic band or something like that, where you worry if you're going to be making tens of millions of dollars in a year or whatever. I don't know. That's just not, as a guitar player, like, let's just go. And that being said, like, I wouldn't necessarily draw the line at like what I do at only rock either. Like, I mean, I'd be happy to play guitar in different styles and keep moving forward. Like, I consider myself a musician, guitarist first and foremost, more than just necessarily rock musician. So there's always that too. Now, I definitely rock is nearest and dearest to my heart, but it's not like my entire world would collapse if like hard rock was, did. But I don't think that's ever going to happen.
And when you think of the future with live music, has there been any thought on that? I mean, I discussed this with George Lynch a few weeks ago too, as well. He played Sturgis recently, and he talked about how, the changes that he made backstage, where he stayed in his trailer, his camper, because he was doing he incorporated a camping trip on this trip out to Sturgis from California. And he was saying, I stayed in there. It was just me and my tech. I didn't really communicate with a lot of people prior to the show like I normally do. Have you thought about what the changes will be like once live music comes back?
Not really. I mean, I'm just kind of taking it day by day, and also, I suppose, in a way, just operating under the I guess, even though I know it's probably not true, but the assumption like, hey, it's never coming back, and that way I'll be pleasantly surprised when it is. I'm not planning on anything, I'm not going like, boy, but back when I'll get back out in 2021 and tour for 6 months, it's like, I'm not really doing that at all. I'm just going like, okay, that's all gone, and now I'm doing this. Let's just be productive. And I mean, if it comes back, then that's great. I'll just look at it as like icing on the cake, man. But in the meantime, I'm just looking for a way to thrive with what's going on right now.
Yeah, that's probably the best attitude to take, so you're pleasantly surprised by, when it does come back. I know when, people think about, just what society will be like in a year or what happens. I know you look at the tech companies, they're telling their employees that they're not going to come back until July of 2021. So everyone's kind of looking like that as like, all right, well, it looks like it's going to be, late spring, early summer when things start to happen. I know different states are handling things differently. Have there been any conversations with any of the artists that you work with about touring or what 2021 is going to be like?
No, absolutely not. Because I think that's a global, like, gigantic issues. It's not down to like, if some band wants to go out, that's it's like the issues are far bigger than that at the moment. So
yeah,
not really. And that's why it's also like insane to waste time on it. It's like, okay, well, I guess we'll just see what's up. Especially because I'm not necessarily running my own band where I'm trying to book the tour or anything like that. It would be the bands that I'm a part of doing that. Like, obviously, if David wanted to book dates for Whitesnake, and that's up to him and management, and same with Trans-Siberian Orchestra. So I'm not really making those decisions. So it doesn't really affect me a whole ton. I mean, I definitely miss it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not trying to be like, I don't care, because I do, but at the same time, it's far more important to just try to be productive with what's going on right now than to sit around and say like, man, things would be great if we were doing that, but things are terrible right now. It's like, it's not really. I just gotta find a way to make things happen right now too.
Absolutely. To go back to something that you stated earlier in the interview about you teaching, you have a master class now, which I think you said you have like 30 or 35 students. Is that something you're very passionate about too as well? Showing, others how to play, young people how to play, get into guitar and learn how to play?
Well, it's something I have a lot of experience in. I think when I was younger, I probably gave my first lesson at the age of 14. And then I think even through my teens, I always had like a handful of students, and really that carried me through all the tough times too. Like when I got out of music school and I was back in the suburbs of Chicago, I think it's 70 students a week for about, I would say, a good like 8-9 years, something like that. I mean, that really helped me through. And then I would obviously take off of the lessons when I had gigs or shows or, anything else I needed to do musically. But that really brought me through. So again, it's bringing me through this. So I'm also doing fairly well, really, with doing sessions for people. That's been good. But the teaching thing is really, it's a nice rock to be able to be like, all right, like let's talk about guitar. I can help you learn, and this will help me make it through this time. And yeah, I enjoy it. I like, especially the one-on-ones, having an opportunity to work with people. And I do enjoy watching people get better. I think it's cool. And it's a good feeling that it gives you a sense of purpose. Like you feel like you did something good in a day. Like, okay, nothing's worse than when you're teaching and somebody's not practicing it or getting better. That could be a frustrating feeling because you're like, all right, I'm not connecting. They're not obviously understanding what's happening here. But in general, I think I do pretty well with it because I have such experience with teaching. I've done an absolute ton of it. So for me to be able to go back to it right now is just like putting on an old pair of shoes, man.
That's awesome. I know, when I look at my son, and he's been playing now for about 3-4 years, and he learned his first chord from a custom guitar maker in Hermosa Beach, California. And he was sitting there, the guy gave him a guitar, and he's like, all right, let's try to learn some chords. So he taught my son how to play these chords when he was like 11 or 12, and he's been, going ever since. And we had this conversation probably about a year ago where he was talking about, who he was listening to. And I said, if you really want to become a great guitar player, you got to listen to everything. And how that affects your guitar playing is that the more you put in, to the blender, as an example, the better the milkshake's going to taste, or whatever you're making is going to taste, because you've got so much that's influenced you that it's going to come out in your playing. What's your advice to a young guitar player that's 15 years old, like my son?
Well, it's definitely to just work hard and outwork everybody else. That's the number one thing. And not to sweat it too much beyond that, but it's got to come down to a daily thing. You're pretty much like just trying to stay productive on a daily basis. That's what'll get you to that next level. And, man, I mean, as far as like the, what you're supposed to practice, that's different for everybody. So there's no one way to do it. I think every person's got to find their own path in terms of what they put in. I mean, I'll say for me, one of the best things that ever happened was having the whole grunge thing turn everything upside down right when I was getting out of music school. So it kind of, it thrust me into a way to like a career of trying to make a living with my guitar, not being able to rely on simply just like the chops that I'd worked on when I was a kid. So I had to learn to play a bunch of different styles and how to play music with a bunch of different people. And I mean, I've done so many different types of gigs in my life. It's ridiculous. So that really helped me in a way. And then oddly enough, the 80s resurgence, as they call it, or revival, really took off. And then I ended up doing the best with what I had initially started to play guitar and be into. But that doesn't mean that people should do exactly what I did. Like there's some players that just play exactly like they play. They built a career, and that's awesome. But everybody's different. So just my path involved learning a lot of different styles and playing a lot of different types of gigs. And I enjoy having that, I guess, a diversity in my style.
Joel, it's been a great conversation. Thank you very much for doing this. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time out today.
All right, everybody. That's Joel Hoekstra, guitar legend, guitar teacher. Great to have him on today. My name's Jay Scott. This is the Hook Rocks, the Ultimate Rock Community Podcast. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk again soon. Take care.
Cadillac in the back, we could go where you please. And friend. My mama, little Ella, you're as wild as the wind.
Greenlight helps kids learn about money by actually using it. It's a debit card and money app that teaches kids to earn, save, and spend in real life, not just swipe and hope for the best. Learning happens naturally, in the moment. Parents can set limits, see real-time spending, and guide better habits all in one place, without constant check-ins or cash runs. Don't wait. Try Greenlight risk-free today at greenlight.com/trygreenlight.